What'd you make of JJ Redick's entire season? Because I think there are chapters to what JJ Redick had to kind of endure with the Lakers and what the roster looked like and injuries. But as you take a step back, take what you saw in the regular season, take what you saw in the postseason as well. I think that's important to also put in the mix here. What was your thoughts on JJ's first year?
Loved everything in the regular season. I'll get to the playoffs in a second. This was a team that from training camp through the end of the regular season, they had 7 different players. 7. That's almost half your roster, obviously. So lot of mixing and matching. Starting with the Dorian Finney-Smith trade, and D'Lo gone. There's your bench scoring out the door. His 14 or 15 points a game. But I think it was a good trade for the Lakers. They got better defensively, obviously. Then Luka, a whole bunch of guys in and out on that one. A couple days later, you had the failed Mark Williams trade. Dalton Connect, it took him weeks to recover. It absolutely did. Maybe you could say Cam Reddish never did recover. Not that he was a huge part of the team or the rotation, but he was cut a month and a half later. So, just a lot of turmoil. That's the wrong word. Turnover is probably the better word. I thought he really handled it well. Time to talk playoffs. And by the way, he should have been higher than 6th in the Coach of the Year awards. I went back and looked at some. Yeah, Slee. I went back and looked at what some of the pundits, like you and me, even though we didn't really weigh on this topic, but some of the national guys had to say before the season. ESPN, in their informal straw poll, had the Lakers finishing 8th in the West, so they beat that by 5 spots. Good for them. I thought he deserved more recognition for that, when you include all the turnover and everything. And completely changing the team on the fly. You had a ground and pound system. You had Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson when the season started with LeBron and AD. All of a sudden, you've got Patty Mahomes in the Kansas City offense once you add Luka Doncic on February 1st. And the way that JJ Redick really transformed the Laker offense, they were not a big three-point shooting outfit. They finished the offseason and try to do that much damage from 3 in the playoffs as well as one of the top teams from behind the arc, at least as far as shooting them and making them. Completely reconfigured their offense, okay? Huge kudos for that. Then came the playoffs. And obviously the game 4 where he sat everybody on the bench the entire second half. Dorian Finney-Smith started instead of Jackson Hayes, and all those guys played 24 minutes. JJ Redick's not dumb. Okay, he's going to learn from that. If that gamble paid off, and it came within a few minutes of actually paying off, we're talking about JJ Redick as the next Phil Jackson. He did something that hadn't been even tried since the NBA went to the play-by-play format in the 97 season. No one had ever even done that in the playoffs. Played 5 guys the entire second half. So he was taking a gamble. It did not pay off. I think he's going to learn from stuff like that. And give him a good center. No dig on Jackson Hayes. He's a career backup. Give JJ a starting, very good quality center going into next season. I think we'll see what he really can do as a coach.
It's funny, Brez. I would have had. I think this was my issue. My only issue with JJ in the playoffs. Okay, let's take the didn't sub anybody out for game 4. It's never happened in the history of the NBA. I'm okay with every decision he made. I just wasn't crazy about his reaction to some of his decisions. I didn't. Yes, I didn't like, and just kind of. I agree with you. Listen, the man. I think he's the right coach for the Lakers. I really believe that. I'm looking forward to what he can do with the Lakers. I wish. What I liked so much about him, I didn't feel like he was stubborn during the regular season. I felt like he was willing to try new things in the regular season. I felt like he wasn't married to anything. I think once you got to the playoffs, the only place I'd be critical in is I felt like started getting a little bit more stubborn. Maybe it's the rotations. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust that guy. And then I'm watching Steve Kerr, and he's like playing 13 different guys. But it's okay. I think that kind of comes with I'm learning this on the fly. My roster is not perfect. These are clearly the only guys that I really trust. But his reaction to some of the decisions he made, I wasn't crazy about. And I think for me, what I'd love to see from JJ Redick moving forward is, hey, let me admit something that if I'm going to try something that's never happened in NBA history and it doesn't work, then I'm also okay to say, like, I understand scrutiny is going to come with that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like that you don't have to, I guess you don't have to worry about other people's opinion too much, but I wish that he also, looked at the camera and was like, guys, yeah, maybe that wasn't the best decision that I've ever made. But either way, I do feel good about the future of the head coaching position. I do like JJ Redick, and I also think he had a really bad playoff performance. But any player in their first playoff performance isn't going to be perfect. Your hope is they get better year after year.
Yeah, really good analysis there. This is why you have a podcast, and I'm merely an accessory to one at Spectrum Sportsnet. Yeah, what you said is absolutely right. Like the Lakers started off, was it 3-0, Slee? I know they had a nice little, whenever their first loss was, after 3-0 or 2-0, whatever it was, way back when.
I think
in
you're
October.
right. It was 3-0, and I think it was like, I want to say Sacramento might have been the third win. They had 3 games in a row, and maybe their first loss was Phoenix or something like that.
Yeah, whoever it was. I remember he took the post-game podium, and I'm like, oh my, this guy's taking this loss really hard. Like it was a first-round Game 3 loss where the team was up by 20 and lost by 2. I'm like, huh. He'll need to work on that a little bit, but I think that's still kind of transferred. And what I mean by taking the loss, kind of like sighing, some forehead rubbing, if I remember correctly, all the way back to the pre-Halloween days. Kind of some, he seemed really perturbed by the first loss of the season, his first career loss. And I think he got better throughout the season, but in the playoffs, maybe that came back again. And he just didn't handle some of the losses and maybe some of the scrutiny the way that he'd want to. If I'm him, I spend a lot of the offseason, presumably adjusting to a new roster, whatever that's going to look like, starting in late June and going into early July. And I think he's very good at this too. What can I do better? I can already sense some wheels turning in his head at his post-season press conference with the media. And he basically avowed that, yes, I will look at what went wrong with the team and with myself, paraphrasing here a little bit, and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to devote 6 months to improving however I can. And I think he's right. Look, I covered Phil Jackson for his second Laker tour. That guy, hey, granted, he won 11 championships, Slee. This is a terrible comparison, only in after the Lakers would go into, let's call it Boston back then with the Kobe and Pau teams.
Yep.
And would lose, he would just kind of like shrug his shoulders and start laughing. Like after the same question was rephrased 3 or 4 times by us media members when I was at the LA Times, what the hell happened out there? After the 4th one of those, he'd be like, guys, what can I tell you? We play again tomorrow against the Detroit Pistons. See you all there. He would kind of look one last time around and let's laugh, that knowing Phil Jackson laugh and walk off. And you know what? He's right. The next game in the NBA is usually either within 24 hours or within 48 hours, you're playing again, unless you're lucky enough to get that 3 days between games. That seems so few and far between. So JJ, I know that he has talked to Phil at certain times throughout the season. I don't know the depths of those conversations, but I think Phil will be a really good ally for a guy like JJ, who has potential. Like I said, he should not have been the 6th leading vote getter for Coach of the Year. Obviously, I think there were 2 clear-cut candidates, Atkinson and Bickerstaff. If I had a vote, maybe it's good I don't. I probably would have put JJ 3rd on my list. I thought he was that good in the regular season, and I do think he will respond pretty well during the offseason and work on himself too.
Yeah, I don't think there's a question. I think you'll get a lot of people's thoughts and comments, and this happens all the time, fans, where what do you remember last? And your lasting impression of JJ Redick in the playoffs wasn't the best. But if you don't think that this man accomplished a hell of a lot in his first season as the Lakers head coach with all the changes that went on, I think you're just not giving him the credit that he deserves. But he's got some things to learn as well. And wouldn't any rookie coach coming into the league, obviously he's got a lot to learn from his own perspective as well. All right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.